What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is a sci-fi action film that was directed by Rupert Sanders and is based on the 1989 Japanese manga of the same name written by Masamune Shirow. While Ghost in the Shell takes place in Japan in the technologically advanced distant future and primarily follows Scarlett Johansson's character Major Mira Killian. Major, as she's often called, is both human and machine at the same time. She's what's referred to as a ghost in the shell because her brain lives inside a cybernetic body and the rest of that body is fully robotic. Major was created by a technology company called Hanka Robotics and is the first of her kind. She works for a group called Section 9 that's designed to suppress criminal activity, and one day they encounter a criminal they've never seen anything like before. And the rest of the film is spent mostly with Major as she and her team try to bring down this mysterious hacker and vigilante, while Major also tries to better understand what she is and where she came from. Okay, so honestly, I knew very little about Ghost in the Shell going into my viewing experience last night. I had seen the trailers and thought it looked pretty trippy and out there, and I was right, but I knew nothing about the anime or original manga from which this story originates because I've never really watched anime besides Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. But to get to the point, maybe it helped that I hadn't seen the anime because this was completely fresh and new content to my eyes. I didn't go in with any expectations or preconceived notions about what this film should be, and overall, I really enjoyed my experience with this one. Is it perfect? Definitely not, but it's a very unique experience that I had a lot of fun with, and I honestly don't understand all these negative reviews on the film. And really, this unique experience starts and ends with the visuals. This is one of the coolest looking films that I've ever seen in my entire life. I was completely floored with the consistently amazing visual experience that Ghost in the Shell delivers. I literally said wow out loud several times because this world is just so incredibly vibrant and immersive, and I was 100% captivated and immersed within this story and world. With these sort of futuristic films, sort of similarly to space films, there's an extremely heavy burden to deliver visuals that make you feel like you're in the future, and that sense of environment is continually built upon and progressively improved over and over again. Just when you think the visuals can't get any cooler, Ghost in the Shell somehow manages to deliver you something even cooler than its preceding scenes. This is one of those films that you almost have to buy on Blu-ray just for the visual experience. But something else that I really enjoyed was the acting, particularly from Scarlett Johansson, who has quickly become one of my favorite actresses. She really sells this role because everything about her character feels robotic. The way she moves, her facial expressions, everything. This is not an easy role that a lesser actress could pull off because there's a lot of subtlety that goes into performing this character correctly, and Scarlett Johansson pulls it off pretty flawlessly. She completely sold me on the robotic nature of her character, and I also really liked Major and found myself rooting for her. Another actor whose work I really enjoyed in this film was Pilou Asbæk, whose name I probably just butchered, but either way, he plays Batu, Major's right-hand man of sorts, and he was actually a really cool character as well. He's a badass, no-nonsense kind of tough guy that has some serious personality and charisma about him. He actually played off Major really nicely, and he's a cool supporting character in what really is a film that's full of some very nice acting performances. Something else you're probably wondering is whether the action delivers or not. I'd say yeah, it mostly does. It's actually pretty violent for a PG-13 film, and there's a few things that happen that are sort of John Wick-ish where I was like, wow, really pushing the boundaries of PG-13, aren't we? But generally, the action scenes will give you that rush of thrills that you're looking to get out of a sci-fi action flick. They're pretty well executed and also pretty unique looking in all their robotic sci-fi excitement. It sort of reminded me of Fifth Element in a way, if you've ever seen that before. One thing I did have a slight problem with, and this sounds terrible, I know, but it's worth mentioning, is that when Scarlett Johansson is occasionally kicking ass in her semi-transparent suit, it can be hard to concentrate on the action because for heterosexual males, you're likely going to find yourself focusing on Scarlett Johansson and her body instead. It's a distraction, and I get it comes from the source material, but I think the filmmakers should have gone a different direction so male viewers could more clearly focus their attention on the action itself, because it mostly is very well done. So as for the story itself, I think it mostly works overall. Sometimes I was captivated, sometimes I wasn't, but I think oddly enough, the story does enough to keep you satisfied, while the acting and visual experience and the action do the heavy lifting. But with that said, I will say that sometimes Ghost in the Shell lacks the necessary emotion to take it to the next level. There are some attempts at sentimentality, and usually it doesn't work all that well. When this film is at its best, Major is exploring her personal identity and trying to uncover the truth about who she is and why she was made, or when she's kicking ass along the way. Ghost in the Shell struggles whenever it starts introducing villains because none of them really are all that interesting and the story suffers because of it. Also, I'll say that the pacing is just kind of one big blur. It's really hard to separate this story into separate acts because it really just feels like one long stretch of storytelling. I think the film would have been better off implementing some specific beats that indicate transitions in the storytelling because some things just happen with little to no build up and it's much less impactful that way. And finally, there's one last thing that needs to be discussed before we recap. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this film because of Scarlett Johansson's casting in the leading role of Major, considering she's a white woman and the original character seems to be Japanese because the story takes place in Japan. Some are upset over this. And here's my take on the issue. Look, ideally, would it have been nice to have an Asian actress in this role? Absolutely, but practically speaking, studios are not in the business of losing money. Ghost in the Shell is a very edgy, artistic, and out there kind of film, but also one that's very expensive to make due to all the technical requirements it takes to pull it off. The fact that an A-list actor like Scarlett Johansson is in this film instantly puts it on the map. Part of the reasoning is that this is a cybernetic body that Major inhabits, and it doesn't really matter what the skin color is because it's not a real person's body. And the other part of it is that the target demographic for this kind of sci-fi action film is men, mostly men my age. And what actors do men want to see kicking ass? Scarlett Johansson. Obviously, an Asian actress would probably better suit this role because the story takes place in Japan, but considering this is a cybernetic being and not a depiction of a real historical figure, the studio is more concerned with seeing a return on their investment than being as diverse as humanly possible. I want to drive home the point that filmmaking is an art, but it's also a business, and without Scarlett Johansson, this movie would not be on many people's radar at all. Her presence alone thrusts it into the spotlight. I mean, obviously don't go putting like Brad Pitt in the role of Frederick Douglass or something, but Scarlett Johansson in the role of a cybernetic being designed as a weapon by a Caucasian business owner is not that crazy, regardless of where the story takes place. But overall, I enjoyed Ghost in the Shell, and I think you will too if you love the mixing of sci-fi and action. I thought it had some absolutely amazing visuals, some great acting all around, some very well done action scenes, and a fantastic and badass protagonist. I did feel that sometimes the story lacked emotional weight, and the pacing was pretty off, but regardless, I'm still going to give Ghost in the Shell an 8.5 out of 10, and definitely recommend you check this one out in theaters if you love the sci-fi genre, and if you don't love sci-fi, this film is probably not for you, honestly. So did you guys see Ghost in the Shell yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite sci-fi action film or whether you've watched the anime of Ghost in the Shell. I haven't, but hopefully you can provide me your thoughts on it if you have. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.